my radio career. I don't guess I've ever interviewed Jay. I've talked with him multiple times, but it's a guy that was 36-3, 36-4 at the University of Alabama, one of the winningest quarterbacks here in Crimson Tide history. Jay Barker, it's good
Ryan,
to see you, man. How are
Doing
you?
Great, thank you. And 35-2-1 was actually the record.
And I'm literally 35-2. Well, all these winners, it's kind of hard to kind of get.
I think that was AJ's maybe record that you had thinking about. But
maybe.
Great
but I noticed that now he had passed you for a little bit on the winning percentage, but I think you went back in front with that final loss.
Yep.
Yeah, so the winning percentage may be on your side.
It is. Well, it is, and it's weird because not you ever rooting against that, but
sure.
all my buddies and best friends and my teammates, they said we now got to get together like the Miami Dolphins, smoke some cigars, and celebrate that you got it back as far as the winning percentage. But man, what a great player, AJ, and all those guys accomplished so much. And great to be back in Tuscaloosa, man, driving down, and Lars is here, Kerry Adams with me as well, former producer. So we're here in Tuscaloosa having a good time today with you guys and celebrating the National Championship trophy. I told somebody earlier, I'm like, just go to the Bryant Museum. Go over to the facility. You'll see a bunch of them sitting over there that Alabama's won. But have a chance to come here today and get the photographs, see Ryan out here live. And, man, I appreciate all that you do for the Crimson Tide.
No doubt. And I want to say a big hello to Lars over there.
Professor.
Obviously, now, do I have to call him Professor Anderson or Lars?
Still writing for The Athletic, teaching at Alabama, and just finishing up my 9th book with the brother of Aaron Hernandez, Jonathan Hernandez. It's going to be out in October. And then we have a couple other few things on the horizon that we're all very excited
mayor,
about.
I'm forgetting the city. I'm trying to think of the guy
that
you're managing.
I'm doing a little speech writing for Walt Maddox as well. We're gonna.
He's a pretty popular guy here in Tuscaloosa, so it's
okay. My gentleman sitting to my left, I got to work him over a little bit, but it's going to be an uphill battle. But you know what? I believe in Walt, believe in what we're doing, and it's been exciting to be a part of the campaign.
All right, so let's talk a little football here for just a couple of minutes. You're a guy that you hand off to quite often. Martin Houston's part of our lineup each morning, 6 a.m. And, it didn't really hit me until they took it out of the cabinet. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here, and I kid you not, there was a couple of Auburn guys back over in the corner, and there was a couple of Mississippi State guys, and they were watching the trophy. And I got to thinking about 5 out of the last 9 years, the expectation is that Alabama has a chance to do it again. Mm-hmm. There's people that support their school just as hard as Alabama fans do, and they never see one of those that has their
yeah.
And it's kind of unique that 5 out of the last 9 and really 17 over the course of time, pretty unique.
Not sure if we really understand the moment history that we're in. I mean, Coach Bryant's years were unbelievable, 20-something years, 6 national titles. This has been 11 years and 5 with Coach Saban. Go back to 2003 when he won it with LSU, and it's been amazing what he's done. The recruits he brings in, the 5 stars are first-round draft picks a few years later, and a lot of them leave after 3 years, so you're having to replenish and get a lot of guys, not a lot of depth this year, so you're preparing those guys and getting them ready to play and be leaders on the team. So he's been phenomenal. I mean, what he's accomplished and done. And you're right. I think sometimes we take for granted as far as what that is and what that means. And, as far as a lot of fans go to games week in and week out and never get a chance to go to a national championship game. We've had a chance to go to 5 since Coach Saban got here. So pretty amazing. I never forget everybody going, we got to go 2009 because we may not ever be back again. Then about 3 or 4 later, everybody's going, I don't know if I can afford to go because we spent so much money the last few years following the Tide and following their championship runs.
All right, so when you look at Coach Saban and you look at Braxton's out on the field, so he's not going to be able to hear you.
Right.
But let me ask you, because you're wanting him to make that transition, obviously from the high school, and I've said it, I have a daughter, but if I had a son, I'd want him to, because I see young men that come out in 4 years later, and I watch them be developed, and it's kind of fun to see them being developed as forget about football just for a minute, just life in general. What was that decision like, just to say, you know what, I'm going to trust Coach Saban to take care of Braxton and to be able to guide him in a lot of different ways?
Yeah, he came to Spain Park, spent about 45 minutes with him last year during football season, and then we came down for a visit and sat with us at every meal and actually spent a lot of time with Braxton talking about, he wanted to be his quarterback. We're not recruiting a quarterback at this time, and Braxton decided to take that preferred walk-on spot, and he's loved it. I mean, he's been here since May 27th, and for 2 months training, going to class, the college experience, and every time I meet with him and go to dinner, he's grinning ear to ear and just loves all the guys. I mean, the locker room is phenomenal. The players are great. And you're right, the stuff they get, whether it's, Kobe Bryant coming in and speaking to them, whether it's other speakers that they've had recently, with Deontay Wilder was there and others, then they're getting these huge speakers that would cost a ton of money just for corporations, and they're getting all that type of training that's just outside the game itself. So he's excited about it. He left Spain Park about, I guess, probably about 5'11", 6 foot, about 170. He's now almost 6'2", about 205. So he's put a little weight, a little size on, and he's like me, a late bloomer. So we'll see what happens. He's just enjoying the process and being around those guys, loves all the quarterbacks, and really appreciates Coach Saban giving him this opportunity.
Let's talk about Alabama here for a couple of minutes. And, Lars, let me get you involved in the conversation. As you look at this Crimson Tide team, your biggest question that you may want to see about this team maybe early on that might give them an indication or give you an indication that this team might be competing for a championship in Santa Clara, California?
I mean, I hate to state the obvious, but it's at the quarterback, and is there going to be one guy emerge, or is this going to be a lingering issue that goes on throughout the season? Is this Tua's team, or is it Jalen's team? Does it become divisive? I can't imagine Saban would allow that. From the outside looking in at it, it seems like Jalen has had his confidence broken, and hasn't seemed to be the player we saw early on in his career, starting about midway through last season. And then to Tua, does he have the mastery of the playbook that Saban demands? We saw in the national championship game when he threw the interception, he ran the wrong play. Is Tua? Can Saban trust Tua? So to me, that is the number one key issue. Is there going to be one guy, as Saban likes to say, that wins the team over? And I think we may have that answer relatively quickly.
I want to hear Jay Barker, but I guess this is what we call a radio tease. Can you guys hang me one more second?
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking Alabama Crimson Tide football, and my producer is telling me I need a little bit of a break. So let me clean up. Mark Houston took a couple of minutes of your time. So.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding.
He's great. I talked to him yesterday, and he's doing great. And man, what a job he does.
Well, now, he told a pretty good story on you earlier.
Did he really? I want to hear this.
Okay. Well, no, he actually told the story. He said he went back home for camp during summer, and he said he came back 6'3".
Yeah, I did. That was like Braxton, yeah.
Yeah, so he was sharing that story and the correlation with Braxton. So it's pretty unique. He didn't say anything. You guys were great leaders here at the University of Alabama. Barton's a huge part of our community and a huge part of our lineup. I'm going to ask Jay Barker about this quarterback situation. I think he knows a thing or two about throwing the football around here in Tuscaloosa. We'll do that next, right here on the Game in T-Town on Tide 102.9 and 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The best sports talk show in all of Alabama. More of the Game with Ryan Fowler coming up next on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 102.9 and 100.9 and the Tide 102.9 app.
Hey, welcome back into the game here in Tuscaloosa. Every single day we are powered by Tuscaloosa Toyota. You'll find them on Skyland Boulevard, 3325 Skyland Boulevard, and online at tuscaloosatoyota.com. Scott Peoples, his amazing staff doing a top-notch job. I drive the 2018 Toyota Tundra Crew Max 4x4, and if you go take a test drive, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. 381 horses, 5.7 V8. Crew Max, you could go and choose the regular cab, the double cab, with some great deals happening there on Skyland Boulevard. We are continuing our broadcast. We're live at Target, the National Championship Trophy. Target here in Tuscaloosa. Come by, get a great photo. We're here until 6 o'clock. National Championship Trophy that Alabama was able to secure just a few months ago. So the photo here, opportunity, professional photographer, come by, say hello, get some Tide 102.9 T-shirts. If you want to come by, say hello, we'll throw you one of those as well. It's presented by Dr. Pepper and Buffalo Rock. Jay, let me go back. Let's just go back to the play. Before we get in this quarterback question, from a quarterback, go back to the play that won the national championship game. Give me some thoughts as you're looking at that play unfold.
First of all, I just got sacked, so second and 26, and so now you got to regroup as a freshman quarterback and looking over that your head coach is just throwing his headsets down on the ground and he's upset with you. So what kind of poise do you have in that moment? And then to step back, look off the safety the way that he did, and then to come back and make a quick throw down the sideline to Smith for the touchdown was unbelievable. I was talking to Kevin Lee earlier on the way down and said, Smith reminds me so much of him, the way that he was able to explode in long strides. And, man, you talk about having like an all-freshman team on the field at that time. Having a chance to win the national championship game was pretty amazing what they did. But Tua's got great feel. I think the best thing about him, I would describe Tua as someone that maybe is an unbelievable musician but sometimes can't read music or has just got a gift. He's a talented guy that has a feel for the game that you can't teach. And I think for him, watching him play the way that he played at such a high level in that moment, I think says a lot. But you can't also disregard Jalen with his 26-2 record as a starter with 28 games. He has a lot more, data, you might say, as far as looking at him and saying that he can withstand the pounding and the week after week as far as what it's going to take to get through a season. But I'm proud of both these guys. I mean, for Tua to step in like that in the second half with some adversity that happened to him early in it as well and some bad plays, but still kept pushing through and able to make that phenomenal play there at the end.
Let me break it down this way, and let me ask you, you talked about Tua, some areas that you want to see and continue to improve. Maybe even take that a little bit more of a step, and then I want to ask you about Jalen and some areas that you think maybe he could take that next step.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Tua is just continually learning the offense as far as reads, and I think that's where you saw, even when the game was really more a play that he thought was a pass was actually a run. The receivers go down the block, and then the interception happened. But I think anytime a young quarterback, and I'm not just saying about him, I just think you have to learn and grow in the offense, get to all the different reads. I think what he does a great job of, Ryan, is he keeps his eyes up and he's seeing things down the field. And I think also when he doesn't maybe necessarily make the best read or the right read, he's able to quickly get to a receiver and then either throw him open or that he is open. He can place the ball, and he's a tremendous thrower. So I think that's the advantage you get with him, and also can run. I mean, he's got a lot of ability, athletic ability to move around, make plays, extend plays. As far as Jalen, I think Coach Saban has said this from day one. I think he talked to all of his quarterback coaches who have watched film on him or have actually coached him. They said his biggest thing is watching the rush. After he goes back one read, looks down at the rush, and then he becomes an athlete and wants to make a play with his feet more than making a play with his arm and just going through his progression. So I think that's one of the things that Enos has really worked on with him. I think he looks like a better thrower. I mean, that second scrimmage, he looked great. And I think Enos is teaching him things. He's even said it in the press. He's learning things now that he hasn't learned the last 2 years. Really didn't have that one guy teaching him as a quarterback coach fundamentals, how to throw. And look, Mal was a phenomenal coordinator for me, but when Homer Smith got here as a true quarterback coach and teaching the fundamentals of throwing the football, it changed my life and my career my senior year. It was huge. So maybe that's going to do the same thing for Jalen. I just think that we're lucky to have two not only great quarterbacks, but I think two great people as well.
Let me ask you, when you talk about pre-reads, obviously when you look at Tua being under June Jones and Ron Lee, Cal Lee out at St. Louis High School there, when you talk about having that background, because we had his coach on, he said the play that won the national championship, he said we probably ran 1,000 times in the last couple of years. Talk about just having that type of coaching staff. Then we'll move to Jalen as well. But just the pre-reads and being able to understand a pretty complex offense that they're running there at St. Louis.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is that, like you said, this the reps. So he's seen the pictures so many times, Ryan, and so his eyes are he sees things maybe even out of the corners of his eyes. He's able to see things very, very quickly. He's able to decipher the pictures and get rid of the ball and make a decision. Joe Montana used to always say, they said, look, even in my latter age playing at Kansas City, he said I was a better quarterback then, not because I had a stronger arm, but it's because I had a quicker mind. And I think when you get a chance to be in a place like that in a high school that's going to throw the ball around, you come in so much more prepared for the throwing game than maybe a quarterback that's been in a more running style offense, have been required to run more than throw. So I think that experience for him in high school really equipped him well to come into the college game.
So going back to the instincts, we talked about Jalen Hurts and maybe getting through that first progression, and it's not like it's a bad thing. It's that mobility that he's
just got it. He's gifted,
right.
It's just his thing. So he goes right back to it. But I think he's getting a lot better at it. And it's not anything the coaches are like, well, we want to say something, but we also don't want to say something because he's made touchdowns and big time plays and big moments for us to help us win games.
All right, let's go to the offensive side of the football. Wide receivers, my heavens, man.
I mean, they're so loaded. I mean, they're talented. Not only speed. I tell you, the kid that's really impressed me a lot is the Waddell kid. I mean, he is the freshman. He reminds me of David Palmer. He really does. I'm telling you, he's got that shiftiness about him. He likes to go over the middle to make catch. He's not afraid to do whatever he needs to do to get to the ball and run his routes. But they're young. They're athletic. They get the speed. They run great routes. Now it's just getting the ball to them in space. If you do, I think all these guys can make big plays.
So you talk about wide receivers. You talk about running backs. I mean, we hear a lot of breakdowns with the backs when we talk about Damian Harris, a guy that has a chance to do something that's never been done here. 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. You talk about Najee Harris, which had a big second half in Georgia.
Hopefully
Brian Robinson from local. Josh Jacobs, which is a young man that's got a very inspiring story. Just a lot of just loaded. I mean,
it is. I mean, you go past those. I mean, and talk about some guys who get a lot of attention. A lot of times, Brian Robinson. I mean, I think he looks. I mean, the part big time. You look at as far as Jacobs. To me, he reminds me so much of Mark Ingram. It's unbelievable. His build, the way he runs the football. He's just a tough back and a great guy that comes out of the backfield and can catch the ball very well. Damian is Damian. I mean, what a great career he's had, and he's also just a tremendous young man. And everybody that I'm close to the program talks so highly of him. And then Najee's just that guy that's just a super freak athlete. I mean, he can do everything. He's that kind of back that can get the tough yards. He's got the speed to break away. He can jump over and hurdle anybody on the field. He's a great player. And I really like this Ford kid. He has really impressed me. I'm like, man, this guy's going to be really good. So unless right now it's just looking that way, but I've been very impressed by him, that freshman running back.
You think about competition. Competition makes us all better. It does. And you think about those backs that are wanting those carries. You come to Alabama, you're not afraid of competition. I mean,
this is there. Yeah.
Everybody wants to compete.
Yep.
So you think about
it's the best.
So let me ask you on the offensive side of the football. Chris Lowe earlier this week had an article on ESPN that Nick Saban had given him a quote that we may have to put more pressure on the offensive side of the football to allow this defense to grow up in front of our eyes.
Yeah, 3 returning starters on defense?
Right.
I mean, you talk about leaders and guys that got to still develop. I mean, you've got some that got playing experience, but now it's about making it through an entire game, and also the leaders that come about from that side of the football is huge. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think the offense will have to, in a sense, carry it early on, but I think this defense has enough talent. I think it's got enough depth. I mean, probably the biggest area I worry about, I think the front seven, even though there's a lot of guys that have had a lot of playing time, maybe there's not a lot of starters back, but there's a lot of talent. I think the secondary, to me, is where you worry more, because that's where a lot of big-time decisions are made that can cost you big time. Where a safety comes up or they get out of position, all of a sudden they hit a deep ball, make a big play, an explosive play down the field. Nowadays in football, it's explosive plays and it's turnovers in the kicking game. If you are able to control those 3 things, you got a great chance of winning.
Bobby Petrino, you expect him to go right after this secondary and
he expects to, right? I mean,
Sure.
He's unpredicted that they're going to come in and beat Alabama. So, I mean, what are you going to tell your team that we're not? So,
Sure.
I think that's a given. But, yeah, I think he's very good at devising schemes and doing the things he needs to do to try to affect the defense. I think he'll probably create a lot of movement, shifting, trying to catch the defense off guard, especially that young secondary. Like I said, getting those guys out of position, getting the type of matchups he wants. I really, Bobby Petrino is one of the best that's out there doing that. But I like the chess match. We'll see. Coach Saban, I think he does a very good job against these offensive coaches.
I'm looking down at this photo, and the guy that we're expected to be a big-time player, what would you do as a quarterback if you look across the line? You better pray the offensive line gets him. But Raekwon Davis, what a beast.
Yeah, I'd make sure my protection was double team, triple team, check him going out of the backfield back, and then just get on the ground if he breaks through, because he can catch you as well as, just lay the wood to you. What a tremendous player. And we're talking about the other day about how those type of guys playing back just 10 or 15 years ago, the speed and the size, how much has changed. It's just unbelievable. But we had the bookends, but, man, they weren't quite as big as him, but they were tremendous athletes. John Copeland and Eric Curry were phenomenal at what they did, and especially at that particular time, they seemed big, but Raekwon is a monster.
Yeah, you look at him out there, and really, if you go back to the A-Day game, he was playing with so much confidence, and if he can take that in, I mean, I hate to use this word, but it was almost unblockable at times, and probably sent a few offensive linemen to sports psychologists during this spring.
Yeah, he did, and probably a lot of offensive coaches trying to figure out how in the world do we block him, and because not only is he good in the pass game, but he's really good in the run game, taking up space there in the middle. I mean, Coach Saban keeps going out and getting these guys, and used to be when we were coming up and playing, it was a lot of Alabama guys. I mean, I bet you 60 or 70% of the team were from the state, or at least 50. Now it's a lot less than that. And it's that way at the university as well. It's so much more diverse. But Coach Saban now has made it a national brand, being able to go out and get these national players and bring in some big-time guys that, as you talked about, brings about great competition, which makes your team better and better.
Let me ask you about Dabo, a guy that obviously we salute for being a part of the University of Alabama family.
Until we play him, right?
Well, and until we play him, but
even then it's kind of like
he is so
Dabo,
awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I sat down with him 35 minutes at Birmingham when he was getting inducted into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, and it was just you almost just go back to his story. And did you guys know a lot of the issues that?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
with like his mother living, how do you not get motivated for a story like that and see what he has been able to accomplish?
Yeah, talking about his brother, Trip, calling him Dad Boy did it.
Sure.
That's where he got Dabo from,
right.
that nickname, because he was trying to say that boy did it, but you can only get Dabo. And also I think, I had a chance to meet with Dabo at Baumhauer's in Birmingham. This is when he was working at A&G Baker. And he had asked me and a couple other guys to go to lunch with him. And he said, man, I've got an opportunity. Tommy wants me to come work for him at Clemson, and Tommy Bowden, and I'm really considering it. And he said, but I hate the fact that I've kind of got here, moved the family, and it's a little bit more stable. And I said, man, do you want to still coach? Is this your passion? He's like, yeah, man, it is. And Kathleen, I think, is ready for me to get out of the house. I'm here too much. She was used to having her own type of schedule. And I told him, I said, man, just go do it. And so did other buddies and players said, man, go do it. And, 2-3 years later, he's the head coach. After Tommy resigns, he had already won the whole team, the players, and then the rest has been history so far. But, man, I'm so proud of him, proud of Kathleen, their family, and his sons, they're playing for him now, so I know they're having a blast.
All right, I'm going to let you get out of here. We want to invite people to come back to Target, come by, see the championship trophy for another hour, your chance to get a photo and see the championship trophy. Before you go, I want you to give me, because I asked Dabo the same question, give me your best Coach Stallings story. We feature him every single – okay, and I've been in radio. I started in 2000 part-time. It's the only interview every week that I literally get, like, sweaty because it's so much respect for him.
Oh, sure. I still do.
But
when I interview or get around him, I'm still get
sweaty
and nervous.
Yeah, Marquise will be like, "What's going on?" I'm getting ready for Coach Stallings because I don't want to fumble a question or have that look that he gave. But he
wouldn't. He probably he wouldn't make fun of that. He'd try to help you and correct you.
Sure,
and be like, this is what you're talking about.
Oh, and I've asked a few dumb questions.
Yeah, me too.
And he makes me look smarter than I really am. But
so we had a father-son type relationship. And we had many talks, and some of those were big-time talks. And in his office after practices, when he would, whether it's degrading me or another player or whatever at practice, be like, "Man, this is my team. You got to let me take it. I'm the quarterback, whatever else." So we had those talks. But before the Tennessee game back in 1994, I'd hurt my shoulder the week or 2 weeks before, so I was coming off of that, trying to recover and get ready to play. And Coach Stallings, during warm-ups, Homer went up to Coach, and I was with him and said, "Hey, look, Jay cannot throw any deep balls in this practice on this kind of warm-up day in Neyland Stadium. Instead, we're just going to let him throw the short game, and then we're going to let him rest, and then we'll get to teamwork and all that kind of stuff." So we're out there warming up, and ESPN's out there. All these fans are there on the sidelines, coaches, people. And we get done with our, one route, zero route, two route, whatever. Now we're going a little bit deeper, and Homer says pull out. So I pulled off the drill, and all of a sudden I saw Coach Stallings walking down the field towards us. And I'm like, man, I know that walk. Somebody's in trouble. And he comes up to me and starts, like, pointing at me, yelling at me, saying, "If you can't throw a deep ball, you can't play tomorrow." And I'm like, we just talked about this. This was planned. So he embarrassed me there. We go into the locker room, and he said something else to me. This is after practice, and I kind of jawed back at him, and we went to the Ray said, "Come in here." We went in the restroom, and both of us just kind of went at it for like 2 or 3 minutes. But we were, jawing back and forth, spitting on each other and everything else. So I came out, and all the assistant coaches were like, and all that kind of stuff. And I won't say it publicly, but so they were just because they were scared to death of him. And I go and shave after that, and my face is just bloody as can be because my heart rate's so far up.
Sure.
What did I just do?
Oh, right.
So I get to dinner, and we're doing our team dinner and stuff, and Coach Stallings says, "All right, time for team prayer." And he goes, "I'd like for Jay to say the prayer tonight." And I'm like, you're just rubbing it in. So I wanted so bad to say, "Lord, we just want to pray for Coach Stallings, pray for his sanity tonight and today." So after the game, you see the picture of me and him with a cigar in our mouth.
Oh, yeah,
he
sure.
Came up to
Very
me,
famous photo.
Came up to me, and he had the cigar in his hand. He said, "How are you doing?" I said, I was still kind of upset with him. And he goes, "How's your shoulder feeling?" And I go, "My shoulder." He goes, I got you not to think about it, didn't I?" And I go, "Do what?" He goes, "That whole thing was me just getting in your mind. Just I knew if I could push you to think about me, be mad at me, that you'd play better tonight and not worry about your shoulder." And he'd hand me the cigar, and that's when we took that picture. Isn't that cool?
Oh,
so it was like
heavens.
a big mind. I know that. I was so mad, and I was really upset with myself that I got that aggressive with him. But with the coaches, when I walked out, I told you what they said. But then for him to make that statement afterwards, hand me the cigar, we took the picture. And, like I said, we had a tremendous relationship. He was like a father figure to us all. But, that was one that all of us in '94 remember that particular moment. And I think all the players were scared to death for me heading into the dinner that night. But
I mean, I'm like, I want to applaud you for the courage then. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
because it's
tough, yeah.
And we take callers for Coach Stallings.
Mm-hmm.
He loves to talk with the fans, and there's only about 4 or 5 that'll actually be brave enough to ask him a question, because it's like, hey,
I know.
Coach.
Yeah, exactly.
So
he can be intimidating, but I tell you, he's really softened up a
Oh,
ton.
sure.
So the last, 15, 20 years, and but he's, I think with him and with John Mark, I think he always felt like, that here's my son that wishes that that he could do what every one of you do, and play the sport, be a part of this. So, never take it for granted. Always enjoy. And I think, too, we all came up, we were all Bryant guys. I mean, we all had Bear Bryant posters in Bryant Hall. That was us growing up. It's kind of weird. So Coach Stallings, for us, was that next kind of representative. He seemed like and felt like and taught like Coach Bryant, and also coached like him as well, and was able to win a championship.
Well, see,
He would have had a great – I wish he would have stuck around longer. I think he would have continued on having another great run, and could have taken him all the way up to Saban and just kept it going and going. But he's so proud of Coach Saban, and he talks about all the time. He's like, man, if I could have recruited like that, I'd – done very well. He talks about the players he's able to bring in and stuff, and has a lot of respect for what he's done.
Well, and Miss Terry told me a couple of weeks ago, I was at a function, and she said, we would never be in Tuscaloosa if it had not have been for Coach Stallings. She said it was the first phone call that we made to make sure that we could accomplish what we wanted to accomplish at Alabama. And Coach Stallings and Coach Saban had this coach talk about, okay, this is what you do, go there, do this.
Sure.
And she said, and she literally looked at me and she said, without Coach Stallings, we wouldn't be in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah,
and
I don't doubt that at all. I think, too, I'll never forget Mal Moore calling me. I was calling him. We were on the radio, and he was down in Miami on the plane. He's sitting there on the tarmac, and I'm like, what's happening? Because, man, I'm hoping, I'm praying. He said, I've already told the pilot, if they don't get on this plane, we're heading straight to Cuba, because I got a better chance there than Tuscaloosa if I don't bring Nick Saban back to Tuscaloosa as the head coach. So a lot of people had a lot of things to do with that, and, man,
all right,
I know a lot of Alabama fans are so happy to have Coach Saban here and what he's accomplished. Just don't take it for granted, ever, and know that it's tough to win every time you go out there, and have respect for that opponent. And I think Coach Saban, I think that's where he gets frustrated at times. He's going, look, this isn't easy. It may look easy, but it's a process, and he's hiring new coaches, like 6, 7 new coaches this year that are there, but they got more energy, more ideas than maybe the guys that were there previously. So always trying to get better.
All right, real quick. I knew you got to get out of here. Yep. You brought up Coach Malmore. I worked for him for a couple of years, and when he was the athletic director, he was a student assistant, and just getting a chance to know him a little bit. And I remember him going out and having the vision for the facilities, because he went out and he had a little plastic hat on, and he had a shovel, and he said he was going to raise $100 million. There's people in the back of the room, they were laughing. They were like, there's no way. And he raised $240 million, and really was the slingshot, the launching pad that got this program.
No doubt.
And I always think about Coach Malmore. Every time we win a championship, it was, you go back and you salute him for his vision, because he believed in Alabama when there wasn't a lot of people believing that you could go out and get a guy like Coach Saban. And you always have to credit Coach Malmore.
There's no doubt. He's a part of it as a coach, assistant coach with Coach Bryant, and won the championships there, and then was able to win with Coach Stallings. I mean, it's like everywhere Malmore's fingerprints are, he has a piece of that moment. You got championships, and you're exactly right. I mean, he went out and raised that money on his own. And everybody talked about Mal, because Mal would get up and, press conferences, may not be the most eloquent speaker, but he's one of the most brilliant people I've ever been around, football-wise, people-wise, storytelling-wise, just very, very smart. And he showed me on a napkin one time, so here's what I'm drawing up to look at. And Thad Turnipseed and those guys that were here at that time took his vision and what he wanted, and that's where you got the Malmore facility and all the stuff that really happened and exploded there that allowed them to have the chance to get a guy like Nick Saban to come in and coach.
Jay, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you,
I
Ryan.
appreciate you swinging by, and man, we're going to have more stories like this.
Good.
I mean, just fun.
I'll tell you some good ones about Martin Houston one day. We'll get going. Get Martin.
Yeah, but he never Martin. You know how Martin is. He's not going to share anything.
That's it.
Oh
he's
man,
awesome,
now he's
man.
going to kill you.
I know.
Yeah, because see, I'm not allowed to use that word.
You're not. Oh, is that bad for him?
Well, it reminds him of those Cherokee, because.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Country.
Yeah.
But see, how do you make fun of a guy? Okay, because I'm from Blount County.
Right.
How does a guy from Blount County take a shot at a guy from Cherokee County?
That's true.
I mean, because I mean, all he has to say is, we're north of Aniana.
That's right.
I mean, like we don't get Saturday Night Live until Tuesday, so
Right,
there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
that I can say that. So I don't use that one. But
Martin's. I mean, he's salt of the earth. Just a super guy.
Yes, he is.
Man, and people know this, but just go back and watch that national championship game in '92. Watch the whole season. Look who paved the way the whole time. Who got the 4th and 1s? Who got the 3rd and 3s? Who, Derek Lassick and all those guys. Yeah, they're tremendous backs, but he absolutely owned Miami's linebackers. I mean, he wasn't just knocking them down. He was flat, pancaking them, picking them up in the air and slamming them down, and he just had a tremendous night. So we have a great picture of Martin and I after the game, hugging each other, and we're both big with FCA. When I got here, he was the head of the FCA. When I left, I was head, and he taught me so much. And at that time, when I got here, there's about probably 20 or 30, maybe that many people in FCA. When I left, because of Martin's leadership and his tutoring me and the things he did in my life, we were able to grow that to about 250 or 300 at FCA.
Wow.
It was crazy. And that has extended on because Gary's done such a great job with it now presently and all the people that have been a part of that tremendous group. But Martin is salt of the earth.
Well, listen, thanks again for swinging by.
Thanks, Ryan.
The rumor is that we might be seeing each other
I think we'll see each other a lot more.
A little
I
bit
really
more.
do, yeah.